The headlines read, Dell said return to office or else. Nearly half of workers chose or else. Dell staff rebelling against return to office threats. New Dell return to office strategy, potential impact on remote workers. On a surface level, none of these article titles really seem all that newsworthy. However, as we dig into it, we can learn a lot about leadership as well as what could have been done differently to change the decision or outcome of these return to office mandates. So today, that's exactly what we're going to discuss. I'll dig into answering the question of what problem is Dell trying to solve by forcing people back into the office. I'll also help us understand the incentives to see if there were any other incentives that could have been used to make it so that more employees did return to office, as well as we'll finally get into what different levers I would pull. Before we get into it, I'm Seth. This is Acquired Salary, the best living through career mastery. If you're new here, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. I would greatly appreciate if you drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. It's your support like this that helps to grow Acquired Salary's reach so we can continue to give you free tools, information, and perspectives you need to master your career and life. To kick things off, I want to go back to 2021 and see Dell's policy on remote work. So, taking a look at this article from CNBC, headed back to the office, corporate America is trying to decide when and how to bring employees back, published in March of 2021. Scrolling down, we can see here Dell. The hybrid approach is one Dell is no stranger to. It started with a flexible work program more than a decade ago. With the pandemic, about 90% of its workforce is remote, with less than half of those returning to office. Ultimately, the company says 60% will primarily work at home. For those that do return, the move will be gradual, and this is just getting into the details of how they would do it safely during COVID. As we move into the Forbes article, we can see Dell's new policy for remote workers. Dell's essentially defining remote work and flexible work schedules, and it's going to be remote or hybrid. Hybrid workers must agree to come into the office, an approved office, at least 39 days each quarter. This is equivalent to about 3 days per week. Remote workers do not have to come into an approved office at all. However, remote workers aren't eligible for promotion or change to the job within the company. This is pretty much a 180 from what we just saw. And further, the Business Insider article interviewed some of the Dell employees and found some of their perspectives to see what's Dell trying to accomplish. Well, from that standpoint, there were some different opinions, and some of them are thinking, well, if a remote worker isn't eligible for promotion, that means they're likely to be cheaper and easier to fire should the need arise. It also means Dell can probably pay them less while they're working for the company, as lower-ranked employees usually earn less than higher-ranked employees. Another theory offered by some of the employees was that this is an attempt to get workers to quit. In other words, this is Dell's version of quiet firing. Why would Dell do this? Possibly because they don't have to pay severance to someone who quits as opposed to someone who gets fired. So what's really going on with Dell's shift in how Americans work and companies are run, perhaps, or maybe it's just a sign that remote work benefits are just another tool employees use to change their business operations and cut costs. From that standpoint, I've covered previously on another video the return to office mandates study by the University of Pittsburgh. Essentially, I'm just going to read the abstract for us real quick. Using a sample size of Standard & Poor's 500 firms, we examined determinants and consequences of U.S. firms' return to office mandates. Results of the analysis are consistent with managers using return to office mandates to reassert control over employees and blame employees as a scapegoat for bad firm performance. Their findings also don't support the argument that managers impose mandates because they believe return to office increases firm value. Further, our differences tests report significant declines in employee job satisfaction mandates, but no significant change in financial performance or firm's value after return to office mandates. So in summary, it's essentially saying return to office does not work. So as we understand that and take a look at the incentives, essentially, the employees are saying, I'm not going to return to office because the benefits of returning to office do not outweigh the benefits of working remote. So, or the consequences of working remote, because Dell has implemented consequences such as you can't be promoted, as well as you can't make any internal job changes. Well, if you think about it on a grand scheme of things, if everybody at the company were to return to office, well, it's essentially saying, all right, it's a game of politics at that point, because not everybody is going to get a promotion within a job. If anything, if you haven't made any significant moves to getting a promotion within the first year of being at a company, you're probably not going to get promoted anytime soon. So from that standpoint, if you're a worker, you're working remote, you love the benefits of working remote, and you're being told, well, you're not going to be considered for promotion or a job change here, if you're armed with the knowledge that switching jobs is going to earn you far more than even getting a promotion, because you can get, this is variable at this point in time, because, you know, we are in a white collar jobs recession. So it is difficult to find a incredible offer where you get a huge pay bump. However, we have been seeing some of the trends where that's increasing again, where you're getting job switches, and it's going to increase the, you know, the benefit of switching jobs and not staying with the same company. So overall, if you think about it, doing the cost-benefit analysis is, okay, I can get rid of the massive benefit of working from home and now have to go into office at least 3 days a week or 39 days a quarter. So I have the potential of switching jobs or getting a promotion within the company, or maintain your current lifestyle without a pay cut, and when you want to get a promotion or anything along those lines, you can just decide to go search for a different job somewhere else. I think it's pretty clear that Dell's incentives, they don't have enough incentive to force people back into the office. Like, yeah, great, you're trying to, but it's not going to work. And I have a video here that we can take a quick look at. There's going to be some cuts in here, but essentially this is somebody from Gen X and his perspective on the Dell return to office.
This is an interesting story, and it kind of highlights a concept I've been trying to tell you folks for a long time, with the idea that the boss is not nearly as powerful as many people think the boss is, right? There's this idea, right? The boss or the owner stands up on the hilltop and he commands his lackeys or his employees on what they're going to do, right? That's the narrative in most people's heads. I can tell you, having had many employees over the years, it's more likely you're on your knees begging your employees to just do their goddamn job every once in a while, right? It's like you got to keep the ship moving in a particular direction, and getting employees to just do their job can be a curious use of your time. But anyway.
Okay, so from that perspective, yes, obviously the layout of the workforce is employers are trying to get as much out of employees with as minimum incentive as possible, and then employees are trying to get as much out of employers with as little work as possible, for the most part. I'm not saying this is true for everybody. Obviously, there are some people in the world that really enjoy working, and so they're going to work hard and, you know, really excel no matter what. But that point is spot on, and so if you accept that premise, it's no wonder that you're essentially having to beg your employees, like, please do your job, because you're trying to get them to do their job for the least amount of benefit to the employee as possible.
I think this is interesting right now because in the corporate world, we have this whole return to office mandate that's being pushed by many companies, right? So, before the COVID pandemic happened and most people were working in the office, the COVID pandemic happened, then basically we had a lot of work from home. So most people in professional type positions were able to work from home. And now that the pandemic is over, the companies are trying to get their employees back into the office, trying to put through mandates in the whole 9 yards. And the curious thing that we're seeing is that a lot of employees are saying, nah, that's okay. I'm not going to come back into the office. And I'll be curious to see how this ends at the end of the day. I've talked to a lot of technology professionals about this. And the reality is work from home is actually a really bad system for a lot of employees. I'm really concerned about the work from home setup, especially for new employees. One of the problems is like once you have a technology professional, once you have a professional that's done their job for, let's say, 10 years, you can have them work from home, and that's probably not a big issue, right? They know what their requirements are, they know what their deadlines are, they know all of that kind of stuff. You give them the task, and then they'll complete the task, or they won't, and you fire them. But it's pretty simple to understand what's going on. One of the big issues, though, is especially...
Okay, so from that standpoint, your job as a manager is to lay out the clear expectations. I've talked about it ad nauseum, and I've been featured in articles discussing it, but if your employees do not understand what they need to accomplish and when they need to accomplish it by, that's not a failure of the employee. That's a failure of you as a leader. You need to be explicitly clear on what you are expecting from them and explicitly clear on the consequences of not meeting expectations. So that's kind of just a failure of leadership right there.
For young folks, right? New students out of college is one of the biggest tasks you have as an employer of young folks is basically your hand is going to get really tired throughout the day just big smacking these dumbasses because they got really stupid ideas. They have one, their ideas are shockingly stupid, and two, they're also incredibly confident about those shockingly stupid ideas. Right? That's one of the big things when you have new employees is just getting them into a position of actually being professionals. Right? There is the.
This is just extreme arrogance, in my opinion. In order to get a college degree, obviously there has been some relaxing of standards and what it takes to get a college degree, and it certainly depends on what type of degree you get. However, in order to get a college degree, you have to understand, like, oh, here are the expectations laid out on the syllabus, and this is when you need to get things done and how you need to get things done, because you have those clear expectations. So most people that have graduated college can actually do work. So, I don't know. That's off base in my opinion. Let me know what you think, but we're going to get back into it.
Task or the skill set of setting up configuration files or whatever else, and then there's all the other stuff that goes along. Again, going to business meetings, how do you do proper communication, looking for problems to solve if somebody hasn't come to you, making sure you update a ticketing system. Right? It's just all kinds of stupid stuff. And one of the big problems you have, especially with young people, is that in order to manage them, in order to train them, it's easier when basically you've got them into a room and you can simply walk behind them and see what the hell's going on. Again, if you have a whole row of desks and you can simply walk behind, especially your new employees, and look over the shoulder, and it's like, okay, this one's doing squid proxy servers, and okay, this one is updating ticketing system, okay, this one is talking to customer, the client, or whatever else, okay, and this one is watching a YouTube video. No. Work. And that's basically your job for 8 hours a day as a manager, right?
If you have clear expectations, they're going to get work done by those clear expectations. If not, then fire them. Like, if you lay out the clear expectations of, like, oh, you need to get all of these things done by the end of the day, and the end of the week I want to be at this point on this project or whatever. Like, if a person understands those clear expectations and understands the clear consequences of those expectations, you don't need to micromanage them. If they want to watch YouTube and then have to play catch up at the end of the day or work longer hours because they messed around all day watching YouTube, like, let them do it. You don't have to micromanage them. It's their time. As long as they're getting done what you are requiring of them, who cares when it's getting done? Like, come on, we can do better than this.
But that's the thing. But that gets people in the position that they understand what the hell they're required to do and what the job entails. Again, the job is much more than the task, right? The task is setting up a cluster. The task is writing the Python code to connect to an API or whatever. Your job is all of these other things, right? Communicating with the interested parties, verifying that what you're doing isn't breaking anything else, looking for problems, looking for solutions, blah, blah, blah. And so one of the big issues you have in the remote work world, right, is if you're off in your own virtual world, right, you're just sitting in your apartment in your condo, and your manager is 1,000 miles away, it's very difficult to just do these very basic managerial tasks to make sure, people are doing their job. And so it's going to be curious to see, how all this works out over the next 5 or 10 years.
The only reason it's difficult to do these basic managerial tasks is because you don't know how to manage a remote team. That's it. That's all I'm going to say. If you know how to manage a remote team, you set the clear expectations, you give them the clear consequences, you're fair about, like, okay, this is great, but you're not going to sugarcoat when things aren't great. Like, it's very easy to manage a team online and remotely. Like, I don't get it, and I struggle to understand this guy's perspective, and I don't think we need to go any farther into this, but from that standpoint, it's, again, we take a look at this whole perspective, like, okay, do you want to go back into office and deal with a manager like that? Probably not, because if you're getting your work done, that's what matters, right? And essentially, getting into the downstream consequences of this return to office mandate by Dell, it is not rewarding meritocracy. And what do I mean by that? Okay, so in a world where we rely on meritocracy, you're going to be kind of utilitarian. Essentially, okay, can this person get the job done? Are they doing it the best? And that's going to be who gets the promotion. And from that standpoint, there is a delineation between individual contributor and manager. And I think that's where we kind of see the struggle of always seeing incompetent managers, because essentially the theory goes you're going to always have incompetent managers because they're going to get promoted to the highest level that they're capable of, and then they're not going to get any promotions past that. Okay, well, from that standpoint, that is understandable. Like, okay, if I'm competent enough to be a director, but I can't be a C-suite executive above that, then I'm going to just end up theoretically, I can end up in that C-suite executive spot, but not be very competent at it. And so I get stuck there. Obviously, if you're a publicly traded company, there's going to be downstream consequences of that to where you're not necessarily going to be in that role for forever. However, overall, the general consensus is if you're competent, you get promoted. But this new return to office mandate where you're not being considered for promotion or job switches means, okay, we're going to promote and consider people for promotion that play the game. And this is a part of the dynamic of the workforce. You have to be able to play the game, play the politics, even though it's just complete BS. Like, we should solely rely on meritocracy. Like, if you can get the job done, great. If you're the best at the job, you get the promotion. That sort of thing. But no, rather we have all of this politics where, oh, you come into the office and you're a personality hire and you make people feel good and, you know, we like talking to you, so you're going to get the promotion because we have this personal bias towards you rather than, like, the raw data. So, I don't know. There's some struggles and difficulties with all of this, but what do you think? Please share your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. If you've made it this far into the video, you may as well like the episode and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on future videos to help you master your career. If you want to understand leadership on a deeper level and how to apply it to your specific situation, consider joining the Acquired Salary community using the first link in the description below. And as always, until next time, thank you.